Hello and welcome back to another episode of Page Burners. This is a podcast where we are reading our way through all of the Malazan books. That means not just the 10 books of the Fallen by Steven Erikson and all of the other books he's written, but also everything by Ian Esselmont. We are currently on the Bonehunters. This week we will be discussing chapters 8, 9, and 10. I have with me a subset of our usual group of friends. I am, of course, Carl, who unfortunately is taking over for Varsha as she is unable to be with us presently. And every week we talk about, as we're introducing ourselves, what it is we're most excited to discuss this week. And for me, I have to say, I just really want to just rant about Terlak Veed for a little bit. I hate his ass. I wish he would die. And clearly, I don't have very strong feelings about this. And with that said, I'll pass this off to Mirka.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mirka. I am on my second reread of the Malazan books, well, the main 10. Today I would like to talk about Paran and what he's been doing. I think it's been quite an adventure that he has had in chapter 10, I want to say. That thing. And Shannon?
Yeah, and my name's Shannon. And I think, sticking with Paran, I'm going to bring up all the stuff he had to talk about ascendancy and everything. Here we are, over halfway through the series, and we finally, at least from Paran's point of view, get this explained. What is the difference between ascendants and gods, and how this works, at least a little bit.
It is such a classic Erikson thing that he really does. It takes half of the books in the series before he starts really properly explaining a lot of the major concepts. Is it this book where we first learn about the Warrens, their first sort of fully kind of laid out? It's this one or the last one? No, the last one was dealing with the hold, so it couldn't be the last one. Anyway, Mirka, I know we only have you for a limited amount of time, so we're just going to do this chronologically. What do you want to talk about with Paran, and maybe you can remind us of kind of what all goes on with his storyline, these chapters.
Yeah, I mean, just to continue with that ascendancy information that we got from Paran, it's not even an official, Steven Erikson is telling us this is how it is. It's just Paran is making a theory and sharing it with someone, and we are, we can believe him or he might be wrong. It's not even certain that what we are learning in this chapter is actually accurate, which is interesting. And so I think Paran, he mentions that he has spent some time in the Urgistan, kind of researching the gods and ascendancy and what it means. And I just thought that was such a nice detail from Erikson, where, very easily Paran could have just assumed the role of the master of the deck and, all of a sudden have this knowledge, sense of purpose, and just could have turned into this badass ascendant. But instead we have Paran, who is he doesn't know what he's doing. He's kind of following his gut, second guessing his choices, doing his own research on things because nobody told him what he's supposed to be doing as master of the deck. I just really like that. It is very unconventional again, in a sense. And I don't think I have picked up on this before. And I'm glad that I did this time, that it's kind of Paran is growing into his role, which includes going into the library and studying what the hell is happening or what the hell is he supposed to be doing.
That's a great point. I mean, I don't know that I'd ever fully thought about how Paran is sort of kind of a subversion of the chosen one trope, in that he has this sort of cosmically he's a chosen one in a way, right? The universe decided he's the master of the deck, but there's also not a destiny written down for him. Like there's not like a prophecy where he's has to do all of these different things, and he's one way or another he's going to do them. He's kind of making it up as he goes along. Like he really doesn't know what all he's supposed to do. And I mean, we saw that even just starting in Memories of Ice, where he decided to make the House of Chains a thing, which I always thought was such a fun development, bringing that the big bad seemingly into the game, as it were, so that he has to play by the rules. And yeah, it's fun that Paran has to do all this research as well. He has to do his homework. It kind of reminds me of in the Wheel of Time, about how after, very mild spoilers, Rand, the big chosen one, figures out he's the chosen one. He like starts reading all the prophecies and stuff. Like I appreciate when characters are like kind of putting in effort. Um, I'm sorry, I have to deal with pets real quick.
Another thing that I thought like kind of was part of this is when the Jegut woman, I forgot her name, she tells him he's like the errand, and then he has never heard about the errand, and he's like, oh, I would like to know how he ended up, like, because if I'm like him, I would like to know what's going to happen to me, if it's going to be in any way similar to errand. And that was a nice comment there, because we know errand, but obviously Paran doesn't.
Yeah, we know the errand, so it's no, you don't want to be anything like him. Errand,
Yeah,
you
right.
you do you.
Well, they really are like night and day, and like those two characters and their personalities. I mean, we haven't seen too much of the Errant yet. We only have one book so far, but Paran has always been kind of a voice of compassion, and the Errant, definitely doesn't come across like that in
No,
Midnight
we get
Tides.
I think we get the idea. He's playing his own game, and he's kind of aloof, and you certainly just get the feeling you can't trust him.
It's worth
Where
saying, though,
Paran,
that the errand has been around for such a long time compared to how long Paran has been the master of the deck, right? So, yeah,
well,
let's
and
just
also,
consider that.
and then also Paran, Carl, you were talking about back when he brought the crippled god into the game by giving him a house and everything, and so I think what we read last week, we found we get his explanation really why, because of the whole idea of gods, of ascendants are kind of free to do what they want, but once you ascend to a godhood, now you're beholden to your followers, you're beholden to rules, and so that would have been his rationale for it, which also the Errant has ascended to godhood, we know, because he's worshipped, it seems, exclusively over in Lethris.
He
So
doesn't
like,
seem too influenced though by his worshippers, does he?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess we maybe haven't seen enough to fully judge that.
Yeah, that's true. But
We hear that a lot, that like the gods are affected by their worshippers, and I guess in the sense of like, if you don't have very many of them, you're not getting a lot of power. You're weaker than you would be
yeah,
otherwise. Like that to me makes sense. But I feel like we do see gods actively act against
well,
or unaligned, no pun intended, with what their
yeah.
worshippers desire.
Well, to be the Aaron's advocate here, I would say, we don't see people really ask him for anything. Like he's not, it's like he's venerated, and
Mm.
people swear by his name all the time, and maybe that's where he gets his power. But he doesn't have followers in the same way as like some of these other gods do. They're actually like having a, I don't know, church service for him and asking him for prayers and stuff. I mean, I don't think we ever see that in at least in what we've read so far. So maybe that's the difference.
The concept of gods being beholden to their worshippers is one that I find very interesting, and one I really enjoy how Erikson develops it in the book The Fallen. I do wonder, like, what do you make of that as metaphor? or theme in terms of like, not even necessarily trying to take it literally, but because when I think of like a god or gods that is worshipped, like I don't necessarily associate them as like being changed by the religious structures that arise around them, theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
It may be in the eyes of the worshiper in question, but it's a metaphor, if indeed it is a metaphor, that I've never quite like understood how to wrap my head around. Not in the same way that like belief makes a god stronger, right? Which is something that I feel like I can understand much more evenly, like what Erikson is saying by that.
Yeah, it is true that we learn here that, if you are just an ascendant until you have worshippers and then you're a god. So it kind of feels like, yes, the gods should kind of try to maintain their worshippers and like, not to be forgotten by, I don't know, acts of, you know, favors or just like kind of doing something for the ones who worship them. And we don't really see that much, I guess.
Yeah, you would think
Definitely not the errand.
the incentives are such that the gods have every reason to interfere. And I guess the counterpoint is that if one starts, I mean, we have, forces that, I'm sorry, I'm for listeners, I'm dog/cat sitting, and there's chaos going on around me right now. So if you hear sounds in the background, that's what's going on. Anyway, kind of like the gods, it's like you're hurting dogs and cats simultaneously, and sometimes they love each other and sometimes they're trying to kill each other. But no, the whole concept of what's the word? I keep wanting to say conflagration, but that's a different word Steven Erikson also loves, for when the powers all come together. It's at like the end of every
Huh.
book.
Oh, convergence.
Convergence, thank you. My brain was
Also,
just shutting down.
real quickly, the word ochre showed up this chapter. I was excited. I was like, there it is.
Yes,
Speaking
that's
of an
another one
Erikson
of the
word.
ones. I don't know if this is not a spoiler, but I don't know if you've noticed that in the more recent books he's published, he doesn't use ochre as often. I think he kind of got self-conscious about it. Anyway.
I've never really hardly seen that word except for in Malazan books. I had to look it up. I remember. I was like,
that was also one of the look up. Yeah, that was one I had.
But
to
yes, convergence. He likes
convergence.
He likes convergences.
Well, that is potentially what offsets gods from interfering with their worshippers. That's what I was getting at, right? I mean, that's the explanation that's literally given in the series. But at the same time, if you're like cruel and you were forgotten for however long, at the very least centuries, and you only came back kind of by chance because someone happened to bleed on your shrine in Darujistan, was it?
Yeah.
It just, you would think it would incentivize you to actively interfere, is what I'm saying. And we don't really see that. Or at least we're given reason to believe that's not.
In these chapters said something along the lines of, it is unusual for gods to interfere or something like that. And I'm like, what? Like they are interfering all the time. What are you talking about? Do you recall that statement? I think maybe it was Cotillion. I don't know. It's just,
I think it was in the context of Poliel, right? Weren't they talking about how she's actively causing problems? I mean, they have a war of the gods going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mean to like, because I don't even know if what I'm doing is like trying to like poke holes in what Erikson is doing here, but it's just something that I'm not really quite sure I understand fully. What he's going for, how it all works. If they're all just kind of, I mean, maybe the truth is they're all Gano's Paran and they're all making shit up as they go along, and people come up with these rules, but the rules are kind of fake.
Yeah.
And really it's just them kind of trying to explain forces they don't fully understand. Which you could say is itself kind of a big metaphor for, religion and the ways that we as humans try to understand the universe. Well,
speaking about Paran here, I do think in some of the broad strokes, I think he's right because I think it matches up with stuff we've seen, even not involving him, because like he was talking about the primitive spirits, those gods just need to have their names remembered, and I'm like, oh yeah, like in the last book, and when the Vedic brother, it's not Hull, the other one. Anyway, when he was at that, yeah, when
Right?
Briss was at the bottom of the water, and yeah, like there were those primitive spirits that they called gods that had to have their names remembered, and or he took all their names on and everything. So like, okay, that matches up with all that, and the elder gods like needing blood spilled, that I don't quite know so much about, but like definitely with Cruel, we do know that. We know Cruel, like like Carl said in the at the very beginning of Gardens of the Moon, just some blood spilled on his altar woke him up or something. And it does kind of make me wonder about Male too, because it's like I always think of Male as good old Bug, but apparently he needs a lot of blood spilled for him because he is definitely an elder god. So
But I guess Male is not yet forgotten, is he? Like I understand the blood need to be spilled only if you want to like bring the god back after he has been forgotten for some time. I feel like Male
I thought that's how they got
hopefully.
power.
Yeah.
I thought it was just how they get their power.
I mean,
but
yeah,
like continuously? I thought it was like about
because they
resurrection.
did
But
back in Gardens of the Moon. They mentioned that like a lot of blood was spilled for Cruel back in the day. Like they talk about that. Like he was a very bloody. His worship was very bloody. I don't know if that had to do with the Warrens and the creation of the Warrens and stuff, but
well, because the Warrens are described as his blood.
That's true,
right? And so, in a way, it all comes back to blood magic. I think the elder gods needing blood is really, in a big way, kind of a metaphor for the way religion has evolved. That like kind of as societies grown, this is a fraught word to use, but I'll just say civilized, right? We don't really sacrifice people or animals anymore, despite the fact that like religions around the world did that for, who knows how long. And so that's kind of my reading of it. A sort of more primal, primitive form of magic.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I think there's something to the idea that like it's more raw, the way in which like the elder god's power is more raw. The way they operate is more instinctual almost than some of the newer gods who feel like I think of particularly, our new gods of shadow, how in some ways human they feel and how complex their approach to everything is, which, Cruel is definitely a manipulator, but even then I feel like there aren't necessarily the games that are played aren't quite as convoluted as the ones that maybe some. Actually, now I'm talking myself out of it because I'm thinking now of like the twins, the Luck twins, who are relatively young gods, is our understanding, and they're kind of just do shit, because we're not really given a good reason why. I don't know.
But still, I think they don't require bloody sacrifices as an elder god would, right? So I think you have a point there, and well, when Paran was talking to the Jagud, she told him, blood will be spilled in your name or whatever. But I think that's just her understanding of gods from like ways before, right? Like because she was in prison for so long, and she just woke up, and she still has that notion of like old gods. Every god requires blood, and she's not familiar with this new concept of godhood that Paran is more familiar with, and he's like, no one's going to spill blood in my name. So hopefully he's right.
Maybe she's onto something, that all forms of godhood in some way do require, like, because I I'm sure that in a literal way there are some small exceptions to the rule, but you think of every major religion has led to bloody violence being done in its name. And whether or not, God or gods in question desire that violence really isn't the point. The point is that it became a motivating factor for violence to be done. I mean, you still see that. It's not like that's gone anywhere. And so I think um, even with some of the newer faiths that have arisen in the last couple hundred years, or new offsprings of older religions, um, that's how I read her point, was kind of that, the religion itself would result in bloody violence rather than strict blood sacrifices. But you may be right. She may literally be like
Old school.
Yeah, old school. Exactly.
Yeah, and so she escaped her barrow, her prison, because she felt one of her rituals being broken. And I guess, how do you guys understand that? Is that the eyes that Mappo and Icarium encountered, and they were, the dragon and everything, and they were like, this used to be a jagged ice, and now it's melting. That was my understanding, at least, that that's what
Yeah,
she was referring to.
I think so. What do you make of Ganath? How do you say her name also?
I purposefully don't.
What do you make of her as a character? She's very
No,
mysterious, I feel.
yeah, I mean, I like the pairing of Paran with jagged beings. He has found himself another one. Um, at
That's
this
so
point,
true.
yeah, at this point, I think it's a tradition now. And she's not as funny as you would expect from a jaguar, but maybe she's
Fortunately.
just sleepy still.
Yeah, she's cranky. I mean, think of what a bad mood Raced was in when he woke up. Like, you
Yeah,
can
that's
only
true.
imagine. And then we saw how he turned out. I do love that Paran is like collecting Jagged as he's like walking around doing his little adventures. Like, he keeps making new friends of them. It's so funny. Um, I love Ganos Paran.
Yeah, but
She's a
I guess
bro.
we haven't had much. I guess she mentions that she wants to go fix the ritual. So I think we'll keep reading and see what happens there. So far, she's been kind of there, but yeah, no major opinion on her so far.
I feel the natural thing to spin off from this is Dejim Nebrol.
Mm.
Now, the tricky thing here is we know where his story goes. So all three of us are rereaders, and our two first-time readers are unfortunately not with us today, presently. Maybe Dan will join us later, maybe not. But the reason I say all of this is because it's hard to talk about Dejin Nebrol as a new character, without kind of alluding to spoilers. But I don't know, to the best of our ability, what do you make of his part in these chapters? We're all wary of saying anything. Okay.
I
Um,
mean, so far it sounds like he accomplished his mission right now. At least my understanding is that he has um, gotten rid of Mappo so that Tara can assume his role, and that has happened. And yeah, I guess we don't know anything more so far. And I think at this point, it feels like maybe it could have been done in a different way rather than freeing this immensely powerful entity from ages ago. I guess, was that really the only way to get rid of Mappo? um, but I guess we'll find out more as we read. So
Yeah, I mean, all I know at this point is he's supplanted Mappo, and he's clearly got some agenda, because he's telling Icarium things like, you have a purpose in this world to, what is it, to free the world of a great evil. Like, what is that? We don't know, but He's talking him into something, and then he tells him that story of the city, and he's like, "Oh, the city was evil. That's why you destroy it." But then later on, we get the truth about what happened in that city, and it was just one person enraging him that caused him to go nuts on the city.
To clarify, for listeners who may be confused, we are now talking about Terralakfeed. So we were talking about Dejim Nebrol, who went in and was the 9 whatever monsters he is, and then like knocks Mappo and Icarium out, and Mappo's now was left for dead, and we see he is alive. And now Terralakfeed, the biggest douchebag in the world, has come in and broken up the bromance and is now gaslighting Icarium into committing, genocide, which is, you just do that in a Tuesday. Because I do want to rewind a bit just to Dejim Nebrol before we jump into Terralakfeed, because I could rant about Terralakfeed all day. Just to say, I'm going to be very careful with my wording here. The way Dejim Nebrol is discussed, I think, is one of the coolest ways any character in this entire series is discussed by other characters. He is hyped up as one of the most like scariest dudes ever. But so far in the book, he got ambushed by like random merchants or mercenaries. I think they're mercenaries, and scared off. And he got absolutely pranked by Iscarl-Pust. And I just feel that dramatically undercuts his feeling as a threat. So I suffer this
also
whiplash.
killed like 2 of them, right? Or
exactly, right? Like he doesn't, in terms of how he actually like functions, what he succeeds at doing, he actually doesn't come across as nearly as big a threat as everyone discusses. I mean, he ate, how many of the high mages did he eat? Was it 1 for every like dog? Was it 9?
The nameless ones? All of them, but Spite, I think.
I don't remember how many there.
Yeah, all of them except Spite.
So the point is, he should have like a ton of magic power, and he was like created in some weird blasphemous, blood magic ritual bullshit, in the First Empire. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He should be more difficult to kill or defeat. Yeah.
I am just, it's tough talking about all of this, but I will say with the crippled god, who is, I feel, also talked about as if he is incredibly scary, but then is undercut, I feel it's very intentional. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Here at Dejim Nebrol, I'm not convinced that this is intentional. So this is actually one of my criticisms, I would say, of these chapters, which otherwise I really enjoy. I think they're really strong. And there's a lot about Dejim Nebrol I really like. Very cool concept. But I just not crazy about the execution. Mirka, I know we're going to lose you imminently. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss, or any questions you had?
Yeah, we kind of naturally came to Terralakfeed, so we can just continue with that guy. And yeah, I think the consensus is that we hate him, right?
Yeah, I really hate him. I really hate him. I hate him so much. Icarium needs better friends.
What really made me angry was, when they talk with Icarium, and Icarium is like, "Oh, thank you so much for, the sacrifice that you are with me." And Terralakfeed is like, "Oh, of course, but I do miss my wife, and I do miss my tribe, and it kind of sucks that I'm here, but I would never like turn down this chance."
Leave you.
And I'm like, what? Like it's that kind of friend that gives you a gift and then tells you like, "Oh, but I had to go pick it up, to another state, and then I got a flat tire, and then like all these things that I had to go through to get you this gift," and you're like, "Thanks." That was
like $500
it was such a simple
on
answer,
it.
but clearly
you don't have to
he's
give me
person.
a gift like this gift, like you don't, it's not important, but you should know just like how expensive, like I'm in debt now because of the gift. And
yeah.
Is this a gift or a guilt trip? Yeah.
He sucks.
He's the worst.
I really don't have anything nuanced to say. Okay, this isn't nuanced. This is also pretty black and white in terms of I think he's an excellent character and an excellent dramatic choice, and Erikson does a brilliant job. This is a very exciting turn of events. The fact that it does elicit such strong reactions, I think, is a testament to that.
In such a short time too. Like we just got introduced to him and we immediately have such strong feelings toward him, right? So that's just excellent writing.
I forget if I said this before we started recording or after, but reading it for the first time, I can distinctly remember being like, I must have missed something because this doesn't make any sense. Who is this guy? He appears truly out of nowhere, like unannounced. And I think that's brilliant. That's a brilliant choice on Erikson's part because we should be confused. Icarium is confused. Everything just changed. It is wrong. We should feel it is wrong. And so I just think just all around 10 out of 10 there, like excellent, excellent writing. And the worst, I hate him so much. I hate him. He's my number one bad guy in this book. I hate him so even more than Leoman. I think because of how intimate what he's doing is and how just like, okay, actually that's maybe going too far. Leoman actually committed an atrocity, but ugh.
Well, part of it is that we just liked Mappo so much, or we do still like Mappo so much. Like he has been built as this character who's extremely lovable. You know, he's super nice to Icarium. We kind of get his inner monologue, which always is kind of like heartbreaking, makes you feel for him, makes you sympathize with him. And then he gets replaced with this new guy. So I think it's a whole part of the strategy that the Erikson was building for. And it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was excellent bringing up Leoman because I think I hate both of them for similar reasons, but slightly different. It's like for Leoman, it's like I felt betrayed. Like I really liked him in the previous books, and then all of a sudden he turned out to be awful and just cares about himself. And on the other hand, Terra like Veed, supplants Mappo and he's gaslighting Icarium and trying to manipulate him, and I think, and clearly has more than his own interest. I think it's we can look at it and say he's got some goal going on, and we don't know what it is. But like God, I hate them both so much.
So before I go, I wanted to talk about the gaslighting. Do you guys not think that Icarium has done those things that Tara Lagweed is saying?
The city specifically, like he tells them. You wiped out the city, Enakpatha Napur. And he's like, the city was ruled by a tyrant. Everybody was evil. And so you fought him. Let's see. You killed the tyrant of the city and its soldiers. And then he killed every man, woman, and child. He's telling him like you're white. That's right. You killed all the women and children because even the memory of this evil place couldn't exist. Because it's just going to go on and be evil. And then a couple pages later, like Haborik is at this place and he's like, oh, here's what happened here. A soldier shot an arrow at Icarium and it bounced off and killed his companion. And then he went berserk and killed everybody. Yeah. So it's
right.
No,
it's
like that is.
Yeah, you're right. He's just, it happened, but the way that he's describing it is not.
Yeah. Like
accurate, and he
wiped it out just through his own rage because we know about Icarium's rage. While Veed is trying to put the spin on it like it was righteous, like you did this for a good reason. When he clearly
makes it so much worse. Like he's intentionally saying it as if, of course, this had to happen, but then I think he, of course, he knows that Icarium is going to feel guilt and will blame himself for. Acting that way, which I guess he would either way, even if he told him the truth about how it happened. But I guess intentionally he's making it worse.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
Hello.
Welcome, Dan.
We are just talking about Tara sweet and how he's the worst.
Yeah, I was trying to manipulate Icarium, and he's
yes, that
taken
guy.
Mappo's place.
Yes. Good for him. I don't know. At least it's gonna change. Well, it's gonna change the dynamic at least. It feels like they were stuck at this point, Mappo and Icarium. Maybe something's gonna happen from this. But we'll
Carl,
see.
would you like to respond?
I'm pretty sure I just heard Dan defending Terralakvid, and while I was dealing with dogs who were one who's chewing on my arm now,
They do.
as they do. No, stop that. Jesus Christ. Okay, 1 second.
Oh,
Okay. Well, I'll just say that sometimes you need to force a. How to say, like a collapse. You need to force a critical point to maybe reset or reach some other stage when you're stuck somewhere, and it's not going to be very fun, but
no. Despite Carl calling himself Terralakvid's number one hater, he made a good point about how he thinks Terralakvid's a great character, and it's probably for very much the reasons you just said. I mean, he's changing the dynamic. He's coming in. He's just instantly so hateable.
Yes.
in his manipulation, but he is definitely, like, we get this idea that Icarium and Mappo have been traveling on for, I don't know, hundreds of years, thousands of years, I'm not sure, but now things have changed, and like something's
dramatically. I think it's one of the strongest choices in this whole book. The introduction to Terralakvid and how he is introduced, that it is so sudden that you feel. I mean, it's almost like how we're introduced to Mappo and Icarium. It's like they've just been traveling together for a while, and you're like, something's kind of off here, but I don't know what's going on. And gradually you realize what's going. Like, you learn what Icarium's deal is and what their dynamic is. But here it's in the middle of the book, and we already love Mappo, and we want Icarium to not turn it into, the whole can start genociding whole cities. And then this guy comes along, and we know it's under bad circumstances, that Mappo was just, I mean, at that point, we don't know if he's dead or alive. Thankfully, he is alive. Anyway, I just think it's brilliantly done and one of the stronger choices in the book. I am curious, on a similar note, we were talking about, before you hopped on, Dan, Dejim Nebrel. What do you make of Dejim Nebrel?
Remind me who this guy is, because there's so many characters in this book that's like...
That's the monster thing that was unleashed from the tomb at the beginning and killed a bunch of the nameless ones to, like, absorb their power, and is now hunting.
The Pharaoh Blokai, something like that. Something similar to Toblakai, but not really.
Tirol Burl.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
In my mind.
I just remember it because it sounds like troll. Like, clearly he was doing a little troll thing there. But yeah.
I see.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, again, it's not really a character, I feel, because it's more like an animal. But not, how to say, I mean, it does have thoughts. It's a complex being, but I don't think it's a character, really. It doesn't have this sort of emotions and this sort of approach that you would expect from, like, a character. It's more like an animal, I would think. I'm just confused because at the beginning I thought, with everything that happened, I was like, oh, that's super powerful. It's gonna destroy everything. It seems so important. Then we kind of ignore it for half a book, and then it kind of comes back a little bit, and then it gets destroyed by Iskarl Pust, which I assume is supposed to show Iskarl Pust as being very strong. But it is, how to say, it does not make the Torol Bakar, whatever, it does not make it seem like such a big threat. So I'm not sure where to stand on that. Like, am I supposed to be worried about it or not? Because then there's Quick Ben, it's like, he seems to be very worried about it, right?
That is exactly what I said before you came on. You basically echoed exactly what I was, which is, I was interested to hear if you also had that same reaction. He is talked about as if he is the scariest thing in the world. Like, this is truly one of the top tier threats. But then Iskarl Pus manhandles him, and you're just left being like,
Yeah.
okay, so I guess he's not that big a deal.
I don't know. Because then everyone treats Iskarl Pus as if he is worthless. So,
He's clearly not. I mean, that I will
yeah,
say is Iskarl Pus clearly is a lot more powerful than he seems, or is at
yeah,
least
I'm pretty sure.
wilier than people give him credit for.
Yeah, it just
But
I'm not
having
sure.
him take out this supposedly like ancient was sealed away, at the beginning of time because he was so dangerous. Having him take out just like nothing, like that's a little too much.
Yeah. I think I would have liked to show the total Baracal, whatever. Again, I'm gonna destroy that word every time. If they showed him before defeating someone very strong, and then I would be like, okay, I have some. I'm thinking about like, oh, it's so strong. I saw it. It would make me feel more something about it. You know what I mean?
So, okay, this is so funny. You're reminding me. So, have you guys seen the Avengers Doomsday trailer that just came out?
No.
Yes.
Like, literally just came out. Maybe today. Was that today? I think it was today. It was today
I
or
was
saw it
yesterday.
yesterday,
today,
but-
so maybe.
Okay. Well, I'm not even going to reference that then. What I'll reference is Avengers Infinity War, when they introduced Thanos. And how do they introduce Thanos? They're big bad. You haven't seen it. Okay. Well, what happens is they introduce him kicking the ass of all of the Asgardians and Hulk, who is, the strongest one there is. And so viewers are immediately like, oh, this dude is really scary. Like, this is a big bad. It's a very memorable opening. That's like what, if you want to make the villain seem dangerous, that's the sort of thing you need to do, right? Like, if Dejim Nebril came in and like kicked Karsa's ass, I would be like, oh, this is bad. This is really bad, right? Because that's what Karsa did, is he came in and just started whooping people's asses that like he had no right to be whooping. Like, that's what you have to do. But for some reason here, Erikson did not do that. And I think it was a mistake.
I mean, I feel like it would be, I don't know. I don't know if I should be saying like, oh, you should have put all these other things in on the book, which is already pretty long with a lot of characters. So, yeah, I don't know if I would have wanted even more of that. But you're right, it is hard because like it's exactly the show, not tell thing. But like, if it actually showed us the thing doing something, I'm like, okay, it's strong. But it's just people saying, oh, that guy is very strong.
Right.
It's like, sure, but it doesn't make me feel anything.
Exactly.
I just wonder where it's going because it seems like such a secondary plot for this book. But I don't know why it's here yet. I'm sure it's gonna come up later, but I just don't know. For now, I have no idea why it's here.
What do you make of Paran's storyline? That was the other thing we really talked about.
Yeah, it's cool for him to come back. I like that. I like the fact that because he's attuned to the deck or whatever, he did a bunch of studies, like he's explaining a bunch of stuff, which is very cool. Even though he says it's his opinion, I think it's pretty reasonable. It makes sense with everything we've heard up until now. Plus, I like him as a character. So I'm like, cool, it's got the Tyrell Guild, it's got all the cool stuff going on. I'm like, yeah, I agree. Even though I don't know why he's doing what he's doing, I just like him as a character, so I'm fine with it. But I have no idea why, like, it didn't make any sense, the discussion he had with Krupp. And I don't know how that led him to go to where he is. But sure, I guess.
Well, Krupp basically told him to go, right? I mean, that was the whole thing. Krupp was very enigmatic about it, but he was like, you need to go. There's going to be a disaster in... Did he name Yucatan? Where did he name? Or did he just say 7 cities?
I think it's just 7 cities.
But how
Yeah.
does he know where to go in the set? It's like a huge place. How does he know to go in the? That's what I'm not sure. Is like there a trail or is there some? Is he looking? Because he looks like he's looking for something.
He is following a trail, isn't he? As he's now tracking polio's disease or pestilence.
Yeah.
Well, he said
Yeah.
something also about the previous Tyrell sort of expedition. He said, "Oh, he was here to sort of like lead me here." He said something along those lines, but I also didn't get it exactly why.
You know what was really cool? We didn't talk about this when we had America. Was I want to say this was chapter 10 at the end of his journey, where they end up going into Hood's realm or some part of Hood's realm, and it was like this bridge of the dead.
Yeah, the bridge
Guarded by these demons. So fucking cool. Hedge comes back. That part was awesome. Like a real like horror scene. I mean, I had pretty, reading it for the first time, I was like, Paran will be okay because he's basically a god. But like the people around him, like it's wild stuff. That's like Malazan. Some of my favorite Malazan stuff is just when they stumble into crazy situations like that.
It got pretty better. But when I first read it, since this is a reread for me, and I've since read other things since I read it the first time, man, I just couldn't help but keep thinking about the Wheel of Time. When they find this bridge in the darkness, I'm like, oh, it's like that, and it kind of, at least for me, completely undercut it until, all the ochre monsters show up and everything goes crazy.
That's so fun. I didn't think of it that way. For me, I was much more thinking like,
oh no, it's a. Yeah, I mean,
there is. I can't remember. Is it Greek mythology that there's? No, it's. I think it's Norse mythology. There's like a bridge of the dead.
And that's probably what's intended, because this is supposed to be more ancient. This is it's a Jaghut. It's something the Jaghut worshipped, or a concept the Jaghut had for death, and it was this bridge that goes to death. Which I was really confused because it seemed like the bridge went to the Shadow Realm, because they seem to end up in the Nascent, the flooded part of the Shadow Warren.
Yeah.
Where, so I'm like, so does, I don't know. Like, I was a little confused. That threw me for a little bit of a loop. Like, how did we go from a bridge to death to a bridge to the Shadow Warren?
I hadn't really thought about that. That is interesting.
I thought the Norse had,
but I love the
didn't they have a rainbow bridge?
Yeah, no, there is. That's the Rainbow Bridge to Asgard. There's some. It may not be Norse mythology, but there's like one of the Norse world mythologies has like within the underworld there is this like big bridge, and if you like fall off it, I don't know. You get like fall forever or something. I swear that's a thing, but maybe I just read that in another fantasy book.
My Norse mythology, is largely limited to the superhero Thor, so it's highly sus. But I do recognize the Rainbow Bridge.
Okay, yeah, it does say online that there's multiple cultures like Chinese, Norse, Zoroastrian that has a bridge in the underworld.
Okay,
cool. Yeah, it's a very cool.
Yeah, it's a great concept. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. Anything with underworlds in general, Bridge of the Dead, spooky. Yeah, count me in.
Yeah, it would be cool if they went to Hood's realm. I wonder what's going on there. I hope we go there at some point.
Well, this is below Hood's realm, is what she says.
The hell below hell.
Yeah, the hell below hell, and even Hood wouldn't claim ownership of it.
I also wonder what I was thinking, because there seem to be several cases in which there's like souls which don't go through Hood's gate. So I'm wondering, have we got any information on like why some go and some don't? Or we don't know at all?
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
I think most of the straight up ghosts we've seen, I think, barring the bridge burners, which is like a very obviously special case. But I feel like it's in 7 cities. Like, I feel like that's where most of the ghosts have been. So I don't know. Maybe it's not. I mean, I think. Well, I thought they explained 2 books ago that part of that was tied into the whole memory of Raraku thing that was going on with like Raraku remembers when it was a sea, and I think like those ghosts were kind of trapped there because of that, maybe, or at least it allowed them to a little
Midnight
more.
Tides had a bunch of ghosts and zombies.
And then Hood wasn't worshipped over in Lethris. Like that was like a whole thing,
Right.
because it also had a lot of undead. Yeah, it was like this is so. I don't know. It's death isn't quite as universal, or Hood's realm isn't as universal as we usually would think of as like, oh, the realm of the dead. Like it's clearly all the dead go there. No, only some of them do.
Do you think it's better to go or not go?
I mean, we haven't seen inside Hood's realm, so we don't know what it's like. Maybe it's awesome there. Maybe it's parties all the time.
But I thought we saw like the entrance in the first book, and it was spooky. So
yes, it was. That is true. We've seen
if you want
the gate.
if you want to keep away the losers and the nerds, you're going to make it spooky.
I guess so. Yeah, I wonder.
No, I don't know. I don't know. We haven't seen, and maybe we'll never see. But I don't know. Like I think that's the point. Is the mystery of it? Like what is behind this gate?
Yeah.
I wonder because
because if people knew it was awesome, they'd be offing themselves and going through it. But yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's how it works. Because think about real life. I'm sure some people do, but a very limited amount of people actually kill themselves for that.
You're right.
But I was trying to think about like old mythology, and like for example, in Greek mythology, the underworld. It's like sure there's some bad parts, but there's also some cool parts, right? It's not just like hell and heaven, which is completely different places, completely different experience, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't. I guess in Malazan I think we've discussed it before about theology and stuff like that. There's not much of it in the way we currently understand it. So there was never any discussion of like, oh, I'm going to go to this nice place when I die, or I'm going to go to this bad place when I die.
Yeah.
Which makes me a bit curious about it. I wonder if it's just like an explicit omission by Steven Erikson, or if it's just, I'm not a fantasy story. I don't care about this sort of shit.
I think the not seeing what happens after you die or what Hood's realm is like, I think that is intentional. Because I think the point is we cannot know. And so why would he make it so that we do know here, in this story?
Yes.
Where he wants to maintain the ambiguities of the universe, right? He's like, who knows, do people go somewhere after they die, right? Like he doesn't want to lay that out in this fantasy universe any more than you can in real life. The question of why more religions don't seem to actively discuss the afterlife, I do think that's an accidental omission. Okay. That's my reading of it. Who knows though?
It's just because I think like the moral framework of religion or anything else is like, it's so ubiquitous in human culture that it is, to me, like I notice the omission. It's just because it's so like every religion, that's what it is about. And even every philosophy, it's all about, the moral and theological and whatever component of it. And there's nothing really like it in Malazan. Even no philosophy. There's not much talk about moral frameworks. You know what I mean? But also in many fantasy, there's not much about it, which is interesting. I wonder if just authors don't want to get into it and we keep things a bit more simple.
I think there is a lot of discussion about moral frameworks in a really broad sense. I think what we're missing is a systematized version of that. Like I think that's what you're saying, which I agree with. I do think that is just missing from the series as a whole. I think it goes really deep in a lot of different aspects, but that's one where it hasn't seemed to.
Yeah. I mean, thanks in general, if you think about Lord of the Rings, it doesn't really have anything like that, right?
No, not at all.
So, I just do wonder about it sometimes.
That is an interesting point. This is why I appreciate hearing your thoughts, because it's not one I necessarily considered, but you're absolutely right.
I just feel like authors maybe don't want to delve into actual real religious discussions and topics in their work as if they're applicable to real, because then they would become comparable and applicable to real life. You know what I mean? And that invites all sort of criticisms and all sort of, I don't know, confusing situations. Like, oh, are you criticizing this religion or this other religion? You know what I mean? And it implies things about
I don't know.
your faults. I don't know.
I don't get the
That's messy.
sense. I totally understand what you're saying, and I think that that's probably true for a lot of authors. But I don't get the sense that Erikson is like scared.
Purposely.
Yeah, I
when
think it's
you say-
accidental. I just
Yeah,
think
when you
it's
say
not
omission, I
intentional.
think he just admitted, like he just didn't even think about it. Like he's just telling a story, and it wasn't
Yeah.
really pertinent to his story.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he would shy away from something like that. My opinion.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, too bad. I would have been interested in seeing what everyone's else opinion that's not here would be on this topic, but it is. Yeah, it just goes so often in fancy religion is like a caricature of real religion, like a very shallow portrayal of it. And
That's one of my pet
really
peeves with a lot of fantasy. Yeah.
I agree.
It's just how it's like a shallow version of Christianity usually.
Catholicism specifically.
Usually, and your followers are either corrupt or ignorant, and that's really it. Like and it's just like I don't come on, I don't need another fantasy story doing this again. So
I think I think the problem is exactly kind of what you were saying and alluding to, Shannon, is that it's just been done so many times the exact same way that it starts to feel kind of dull. Like I think of
you can just guess where this is going to go.
A Song of Ice and Fire is a series I really adore, but the lack of like there are kind of nods to religion and the different faiths in the universe, but it is not nearly as impactful on the story and the characters as. I mean, the reason it's a problem is because this is, or it's not necessarily like definitionally a problem, but the reason why I think it is a real point of critique is this is a series that is trying to be more grounded and based in like real kind of historical reality, even if it's not trying to literally be the Middle Ages. It is evoking it more than a lot of fantasy. And so that makes it, kind of a huge glaring omission there, right? If you're going to talk about, medieval life, you really have to talk about the impact of faith and religion, God in the afterlife.
I mean, it shapes so much of culture and everything about how people behaved, and right. That's
I think it is a potential weak point in fantasy fiction, particularly as a genre that is trying to explore kind of the fundamental questions of like human nature. Like, because you can make a metaphor and make it real, you can talk about big things in a way that doesn't necessarily feel as like on the nose, in terms of talking about morality and like questions of good and evil and things like that, that in this day and age, we just don't have very many fantasy stories that very seriously grapple with religious questions. It's a shame. They are out there. I actually think Baker doesn't do it in the happiest way, but I think he actually does understand how important it is and actually approaches it. Like it's a very dark series, but it's dark about everything. So, but that's one that at least is like actively grappling with the questions, the impact of religion.
And I think I can shout out, I just finished Sailing to Sarantium today by Guy Gavriel Gay. I thought that was a great, and I just read Lions of Al Rasan. Same thing. I mean, it's really great take on
excellent
faith and religion and these kind of concepts being brought in.
Guy Gavriel Gay, I think, is among the best fantasy writers for approaching religion. Not only approaching it with a depth and nuance, but just an acknowledgement of its importance throughout human
Well,
history.
a lot of his books are largely historical fiction with
Uh-huh.
a little bit of fantasy, and so
Right.
he takes religions and just kind of tweaks them a little bit, and there you go. Though, and I mean, Sailor Sorrentium, it's not even, it's just names are changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear. It's like, oh,
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very good stuff. Lions of Alrasan is one of my favorite books of all time.
yeah, my favorite K book so far. I'm reading through them
Really?
like
So
as
good.
he wrote them, but yeah, that was my favorite so far. I liked Tagana. Lions blew it out of the water.
I felt the exact same way. That was the same order I read them in, and it was like Tagana was like, okay, I kind of get it, but it didn't necessarily like blow me away. And then Lions, it was just like this is it.
Yeah,
This is it.
Okay.
I've been waiting to read this book my whole life.
Maybe I should read it because I tried reading the Fiona of Our Tapestry and I didn't like it.
Oh, that's yeah.
So,
No, that's 180 degrees away from basically starting with Tagana, because
okay.
he goes low. Well, Tagana's kind of medium magic, and then after that, he just like there's barely any magic. It's mostly historical fiction, and he's just telling stories about people in time.
I see. Okay.
You know, I mean, Lions of Alrasan is the story of what El Cid, with some time compression and stuff going on in Spain, like the Christianization of Spain, and then the Mosaic duology I'm reading now. It's just the Byzantine Empire, and
super good.
yeah,
Under
but it's
Justinian,
great. Love
specifically.
it. Justinian, that's his
If
name.
you know anything about him and his Empress Theodora, it's great.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't recommend those strongly enough.
Yeah, these two, and I'm going to assume 3 books I can't recommend high enough.
Okay.
Lions, and then the Sarantine stuff. Anyway, back to Malazan.
I forgot where we were.
Well, one thing I brought up earlier, my thing was I want to talk about Paran kind of giving his thoughts on ascendancy and godhood and all that at the end of chapter 10. As the new reader, you know, how did you like that? I mean, we were over halfway through the series, and we finally maybe get it kind of broken down how ascendants become gods and what the difference is.
I feel like it just seems to like confirm what we've discussed before.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. I'm trying to think if there was anything that was like I was surprised about. I don't think so. It was interesting reading some of the nuance, I guess, of it. But he also seemed to say kind of like, you know, it's not really too fixed. This is roughly how it works, but it's pretty loose.
Yeah.
Right.
But and ultimately, it's just his thoughts on it. It's not like Malazan God came down and told it to us. It's just a guy who just became ascended, trying to figure it out, which is what Mirko is. I hadn't picked up on this. Like, I think it's great that Paran is ascended, and he's, you know, it's not like he just became some super god. Like, he's still just Paran, and he's just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, I was surprised if he was significantly wrong, though. Right?
No, I think that's what I said. I just seems to me like the stuff with the primitive spirits and their names, remembering their names, matches up with what we saw with Brees Beddick when he was down with keeping the names alive. And I mean, it very much I think all of this really makes sense, but also I think there's probably a lot more to it too, which that he doesn't know.
Fair enough.
So yeah,
what do we make of the reunions we get in these chapters? I mean, I'm particularly curious to hear from you, Dan. You know, as this is your first time reading this book, we're getting our first kind of major reunions. You know, not Fellison, excuse me. Apsalar is reuniting with the Bridge Burners for the first time since, I mean, for some of them since book 1, some of them since book 2. What was that cathartic at all for you? Are you enjoying seeing the characters kind of come back together?
It makes sense to me because, again, we're getting closer to the end, so we need to, I feel like we should be trying to condense some of these points of view into like smaller groups as we get towards some sort of resolution. that's from just a meta perspective. As far as reunions, I liked Absalar and Paran. Their chats were pretty interesting. And I like the sort of attitude. I don't understand why the bridge burners care about Absalar. I don't know. I guess she was nice towards the end of the time they saw her. But I'm trying to think, because most of the time we've seen her, the bridge burners haven't seen her. And most of the time the bridge burners have seen her, she was like a murderer. She was like just doing the most horrible things, right?
But the thing is, I think they know that she was being possessed. So maybe there's a
I guess
pity there. Like, here's this little girl that was being possessed, and they even know who possessed her. They knew Dancer.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember if who knew what happened. Like, did they all know what happened, or was it just like Quick Ben and like Kalam maybe?
But she did travel with Kalam to Seven Cities back in the second book, so they did spend significant time.
Oh yeah, true. I forgot about that. So I forgot about that.
So
part.
that's the only one I think she would really have a connection to, because they sailed across like an ocean together.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense actually. Maybe like Quick Ben and the other ones, not really. But
what do you think of, on a similar note, the idea of the bridge burners ascending? What do you think is coming from that? We've known about this since Memories of Ice, I think. Like, that's how Memories of Ice ends. And there have been kind of whispers of it here and there in the book since then, but it really comes to the fore when they're in the underworld and Hedge comes back as a ghost.
Yeah.
And they talk about that. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think actually we've been sort of going around this topic since the second book, when they received this Tano song or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's been a while.
Yep. Absolutely.
And it makes
slow
sense.
Burn.
Yeah. Exactly. And it makes sense to me. What Hedge said about the whole unaligned whatever soldier. I'm sure that's going to happen because it's pretty cool. So I don't see why that shouldn't happen. Otherwise, I don't think he would have mentioned it if it's not going to happen. And I assume there's going to be something like, oh, because we're unaligned, we can fight the crippled god, or some sort of, like caveat that lets them do something cool in the last book. I'm going to assume. Or maybe some sort of, maybe they're going to balance. We're going to balance one side with the other side, and the unaligned are going to do something to keep it balanced. And there's going to be something or all those things. Again, it's very vague, but
yeah,
I don't really know. But I assume they're going to be pretty crucial to whatever ends up being the final showdown or solution to conflict. I don't see why not. That's also the name of it. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of sad when Hedge was like, I was dead, and then now here I am, and another battle. It's clear like he's tired. Like, I was, like, I died. I was ready to be dead, and now here I am, and we're on another battlefield. We're getting ready to head out.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, poor guy.
But that goes back to my question about Hood and who goes to Hood and what happens. And like, he said he was dead. He was kind of like he was sleeping,
described only,
right? But he was not in Hood's realm. So
no, I definitely not in Hood's realm.
I wonder where
he was just asleep. I think because of the ascension, like, it prevented them. Because it seems like he just slept, woke up, and then he was surrounded by them bridge burners started showing up.
But I wonder why they didn't go to some sort of warren if they're ascended. I guess not all are all ascendants associated with a warren? Not really.
No.
I think that's what it means to be unaligned.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. Paran here says that an unaligned ascendant is not a god.
Right.
So I guess that means that, if you have a warren, you're a god.
Right. That makes
like
sense.
Shadowthrone is a god. But, what's the crippled god's warren?
Maybe
The
there is one.
the
He's got a little creepy island, but that's not a.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's
Warren?
his warren, right?
I
Because
think
it's
that is
only
his
him
warren.
there. Yeah.
Is it? Because I thought, I don't know. Because I
Maybe?
mean, I'm trying to remember.
Well, it's
I
not
don't
in
know.
That
the
was in the
world,
real
right?
world. The way it ended, I thought that was in the real world.
I don't
I
think
don't know.
so.
It's not chaos, is it?
That's not really a Warren. That's like the space between the Warrens or something.
But like the way people travel to his tent, I
So,
think
I don't
it's
know.
like similar to the warren travel, not similar to like normal world travel, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
But
definitely.
but then that
Definitely.
also starts like what Warren does Opon have?
I'm sure he has
Well, I
his
don't think
own
they all
warren.
own a warren. It's that they are like aligned with a warren.
But see, and I think that's where Paran's probably wrong with his reasoning, because they seem to be gods, but they're more in ascendants, but they're unaligned.
And thinking
And so
about it,
unaligned doesn't mean just don't have a warren. I don't know.
what I
My
was
head
saying
hurts
can't
a little bit
be
if I think about it too hard.
entirely right either, because the soul taken and divers must be associated or connected to the beast warren, even if they don't know, or the beast hold, even if they don't know it. That their power in some way is connected to that. So
Yeah, because we
that
don't,
would
because it was
mean,
the emperor that caused it, the ceremony. We don't know where that power came from. Beast Warren. Okay.
but we know of soul taken and divers that existed before then.
Yeah, but they want to tell us that the first emperor
I
caused,
know.
did a
It's a
ceremony.
myth, right? It's a myth.
I don't know.
I just think even within these books, like not even getting into any of the other books that we haven't read yet, even within these books, we know that there are soul taken and divers that existed before the first empire existed.
Yeah.
Of different races, right? Like not even talking about humans, different races
Yeah.
had them. And it's in a way functionally the same thing, whether or not.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe as we think of them, the soul taken, the diverse, on whatever world this is, like they stem from that ceremony that Decembalacus did, um, but we also do know that there are some that predate that from other places. And that's something different.
Yeah.
It is kind of fun to think that like all of these really cool soul taken who we've seen occasionally throughout the series popping up in different books all came from the same like bad experiment in this one empire. Like that's kind of fun and very mythological.
I mean, there were some before, like the dragons were before.
That's what I'm
for some.
saying. We
Yeah.
for sure know that there were soul
Yeah.
taken and divers before.
But yeah, I think all the ones we have seen, most of the normal ones, yeah, you're right, are from this empire.
That's what they
Think we
list.
know.
They list out the like,
Yeah.
not even talking about the Emperor Decembalacus himself, but we also get Rylanderus, who
Yeah.
we've heard talked about, but I don't think has appeared in any of the books we've read.
I thought we
Or did
saw
he
it
appear?
at some point.
Maybe he did. The bear guy.
Is Grillish the bear
Treach.
guy? No.
I don't remember all of their names. Treach, I remember. The tiger, obviously, is now the god of war.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those, right? Rewinding a bit, the other things we haven't really talked about are Karsa, is on this adventure and is very aggressively flirting with what's her name, who I love. I can't believe I'm
The
blanking on her name.
scientist woman.
Yes. And then we get some more scenes of the Marines. Any
Yeah.
standouts for you? Any characters that you have grown attached to?
I like the Malazan parts the most. Apart from Icarium's parts, I like those with the spaceship and now this part. That's the most interesting parts of the whole book to me. The second ones are the parts with the Marines and the whole of the Malazan soldiers, I think. I couldn't tell you who is who because there's so many characters. So they're all like 90% are anonymous Malazan soldiers to me, basically. But it does give me a very, how do I say, like, because a lot of them are like very comedic. They're like very funny. It's got a lot of, no, like the sort of military soldier comedy box. I don't know if you've read like, I can't remember what it's called, Grunts or some of those ones on those lines, like basically just comedy books. There's another one with like a bunch of evil minions going on a mission, which I can't remember the name of right now.
I've read I'm blanking on the name right now, but a Vietnam War book that kind of has a similar sort of like dark. It's actually even really darker than Malazan in many ways, but it has a very like black sense of humor among the soldiers, and it's definitely, I think, a classic trope of soldierly fiction.
Yeah.
What you were not around when we discussed Yucatan, right? You were on vacation, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What did you think of Yucatan? Yucatan. You know,
Uh,
it's kind of it's a turning point. It's a huge chapter. It's the biggest chapter. I think it's the longest chapter in any of these 10 books.
yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. I like the whole preparation and everything else, and the running away. I like all those like kind of, I don't know how to describe it. All the plotting and machination in it, and the fact that we see again, I'm forgetting all the names today. God, the guy that runs away is called
Leoman?
Leoman, obviously. Leoman and Korab sort of clash and their different attitudes towards the rebellion and what their ideals are. And that part was very interesting to me. And a whole discussion like, oh, what would I do? What sort of thing? Because I don't know if it's, I don't know, continuing the rebellion is really the most noble thing to do, given what it's been doing. But Korab is a cool guy. I mean, he's a nice guy because he does stop and help out the orphans. Um,
Not
but
just the orphans.
yeah, I guess so.
Fiddler as well,
Everyone,
right?
yeah. But in the beginning, he didn't even know they were there. He would just, he
Right.
decided to stay back on principle, I guess, right? So that part was cool, and it was like morally ambiguous enough of which the right decision is to make it very interesting. I think it's not just like, oh, this is obviously the right decision.
I mean, I feel like nuking the city is pretty. I feel like that's pretty black and white.
I
But
don't know, because he did evacuate most of the normal people before, right? He sent them all out. He didn't really think there would be like all these orphans and other things. Based on what I understood, he sent everyone out. He only kept the fanatics in his army. They wanted basically to die fighting the Malazans, and then the Malazans gonna die. I mean, it's a battle. Like, sure, you're gonna lose people, but it doesn't seem such a crime to me to kill a bunch of people in battle. You know.
So Leoman of the Flails and Taylor Like Feet are your favorite characters. That's what I've learned tonight. You are
your own
a
soldier.
monster, Dan.
You're killing your own soul. Imagine bombing your own troops.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, to be fair, they were a bunch of a-holes, but yeah.
and you're burning a city with history, right? Like you're actively destroying. I mean, I think of World War II and the fire bombings of Tokyo or Dresden. I mean, we people do discuss whether all of those are necessary or not, but regardless, I think there's a tragedy in the loss of history and culture and lives. And clearly not everyone who got out, like there were innocents left. Not everyone got out.
I guess. But I'm pretty sure the Malazans were not thinking about the history when they were blasting holes through the main city, you know?
Sure. Yes.
I don't think they have any standing on that point. And I don't know.
Well,
and again, like, it's not like innocent people died. Maybe a couple, but he tried to send them away. So I'm not, compared to a lot of other things that happened, it doesn't seem that much worse than a lot of other things that happened, really, to me. I don't know.
That's interesting. I appreciate your perspective in this. It's always good to hear Derek, because I think when we were discussing it, we all kind of were just ragging on Leomin. It was just me, Shannon, and Mirka, I believe. And so it's fun to hear a different perspective.
I mean, you could tell me why you think. Is it just because of these reasons?
No. And I think you're making valid, interesting points. I mean, I think I kind of said why I think it's horrible. I mean, beyond just like firebombing your own troops, I think the mass destruction of a whole city is just awful. I just feel like the cost there is like almost hard to quantify.
I guess.
I think it also, even treating the other troops that way, like I feel like we naturally have an aversion to total war because of how horrible World War I and World War II were, you know? Like that's the whole idea behind, like, obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now, and in recent years, and there's a lot of discussions around whether or not, you know, the laws of warfare ever really are seriously enforced or exist, or for some people they do and not others, whatever. But I think the idea that we should have some sense of like morality, but like there should be lines we draw. You know, I feel like this is one that for me was like crossing a line, was just burning down a whole city to kill the enemy and killing your own troops. And it just, to me, feels heinous.
I don't know. I mean, the troops are there, like they're ready. I don't know. If you go to fight, I feel like at that point you're kind of like ready to die for the fight in a sense. I mean, I don't know how you can complain that you died killing a bunch of other people, sort of. I don't know. I mean, in reality, it's a bit different. But I think
that is messed up to like hype up your soldiers and be like, you guys are going to go fight the enemy, and then blow them up because you're blowing everybody up. Because then that goes to what my problem with Leomin was just his complete self-interest. Like the revelation that he never believed in Shaid. He never followed. You know, he really only cares about himself, and it was all about getting himself out. Because maybe he could have gotten some of his soldiers out. You know, he didn't want to. Like the only one he was willing to take was Korim.
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't think about the normal. So I was only thinking about like the guy that jumped down to kill themselves and to explode everything.
The suicide.
Well, I think he drugged them up too. I think he drugged them up. Like they were like.
But I think they were volunteers. Like it felt like fanatical volunteers. That's how I read it.
I would agree with you that there is some difference between someone who's like a complete lost in the sauce religious zealot, who, you know, the type of person who does, you know, suicide bomb, you know, just goes in, is like fully committed, like that person is ready to die. I don't think the majority of soldiers, even if they are very strongly religiously inclined and motivated, are that type of person. Like it is very unusual to have that level of zealotry, right? And so I can only think of how many hundreds, if not thousands, of people in that army maybe strongly believed in what they were fighting for. Maybe not. Also, were not prepared to be blown up for the cause.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I didn't think about all the normal soldiers. But I have one thing to say, though. If we look at it from a holistic point of view, the Malazans didn't even have to be here. They could just go home, mind their own business, and a lot less people are going to die. Like the whole invasion of everything, like it's just gratuitous. Everything. You know, we don't think about Alexander the Great and all these people like, oh, they're great conquerors and leaders, but they could have just stayed home and lived their normal life and nobody would have to die.
But that wouldn't be a very good story, Dan.
I guess. But if we look at it from an objective point of view, the Malazans are just as bad as all these other people, because we didn't have to come here and kill a bunch of people and fight.
Actually, speaking about Seven Cities specifically, I think there have, like, Erikson has presented counterpoints to the colonialism that he's portraying here, because I think he's shown that objectively it's better for most people when the Malazan brings in the rule of law, and because these people are just terrible to each other, like they're just killing each other, enslaving each other. It's just one power over another, and they're bringing in a stability that they didn't have. So,
to be fair, the Malazans also used slaves, and that's where we got the Fellison of it all. Or they allowed it.
There is no slaves in the Malazan Empire. That is their official take.
I mean, I see. Shannon, what you're talking about is one of the things that I think elevate this series is how nuanced it is. But I mean, as part of the nuance, I hear you, Dan, that like they're an imperial army. They're imperialists. They exist to maintain and control the empire. And so, when there's a rebellion, they have to stomp it out. And there is something to our sensibilities, I think, that chase against that naturally. So I understand what you're saying. I certainly understand. They could have just not followed. The flip side that I think complicates that a little more is not even talking about whether or not the Malazan Empire is a good thing for the people of seven cities. For this army in particular, I guess the argument I was about to make is they're just following orders. But it's basically they don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice.
Adjunct Tavor would be killed if she didn't do this.
They would be killed. They'd get killed.
Yeah. So, and what's the consequence then if they don't go and stomp this out? Like, does the rest of the empire suddenly erupt in civil war? That is, we can certainly cheer for that to some degree in terms of like, I believe all people should rule themselves, but not all the people are going to want to. And, it's going to result in a lot of internal violence. So I think there's something to be said for a Pax Malazana. I don't know. But it's complicated. I hear you. I mean, the Malazans certainly are not bloodless. Their hands are.
Yeah. I think it's just that because we're seeing everything from their perspective, we tend to justify because, they're the heroes. So we tend to not think about any bad things they might do or what other people might think of them.
Yeah. And I also think they are at times idealized in a way that I don't know is entirely deserved. Like they are, I think if we're talking about our most moral characters, most of them are the soldiers. And when you think of like the types of crimes that a lot of the soldiers do commit, you think of, again, opening the first book where they're like prepared to start bombing the streets of Darujistan, and you're like, these are the good guys? Which I love. But I do feel like sometimes the 10 books treat the Malazan soldiers as if they are, because they are unusually moral and ethical in many situations compared to the people around them. But there are also times I feel like they are whitewashed a little bit and held to a not held to this standard that some of the other more villainous characters are. Like I was just listening to an interview the other day with Steven Erikson, and this YouTuber was talking about how she saw the Malazans as kind of like a safe place, like a place of comfort, because they're always going to do the right thing. And I instantly kind of internally recoiled. One, because on the reread, I remember the street bombing. It stands out so strong in my memory. I'm like, the bridge burners were just going to start bombing the city? What the fuck? Like, it's literally just like, they're just terrorists. But that is kind of how they're framed, though, in the series, where they are kind of framed as like the good guys. And I don't know that they always are like the good guys. And so it's messy in that way.
I think I like what you said, like whitewashing them, because I think they are somewhat unrealistic in how good they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, despite the bombing the city thing. But I think if we go into history, we look at, when an army sacks a city, there's a whole lot more bad stuff going on than we see in these books. Like it's
Yeah.
like the bridge burners. It's like, oh yeah, we're saved, yeah, liberated or something. I don't know, but it's just, or we don't really see that. But yeah, we don't see any of the Malazan, and not just the bridge burners, any of the Malazan army acting like we know historical armies did when they took over cities.
Yeah.
So I think there is like that little bit of whitewashing to make them to kind of make them clean. Like, oh, they're good guys. Because we don't want to think about, them pillaging and doing awful things to women.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense. I mean,
Not,
I think.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, all I was going to add is like, and not even just women, down to children, right? Like,
yeah,
the innocents, the weak get abused, face just the worst things in wartime.
I mean, in my
maybe that's why the bridge burners ascended, because they are so good.
Maybe. What a coincidence. But I do think that because they're more like organized and stuff like that, they're less likely to do any of the spontaneous that would happen in like medieval times or with less organized armies. And so that does, in a sense, make sense a bit. But the Romans did also just like not uncontrolled, but controlled pillaging. It was not just like, they pillaged the city because they were not under control. They did it because their general told them to destroy everything. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, even the Romans, like the sack of Jerusalem, they pillaged the city. They burned it down, right?
Yeah, it was allowed. Like it was your reward.
Yeah.
You fought, you took over the city. Now we're going to let you run rampant. Like from my understanding, that's kind of how not all, but a lot of cultures handled their militaries.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That is absolutely true. I mean, I think there's maybe some truth to the idea that like a well-maintained standing army might have better control, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to commit what we would view as like horrible atrocities.
Yeah.
I mean, you even look at armies, like so many countries today try to maintain a higher level of ethics around combat and war. And we have better trained and like actually try to hold soldiers accountable when they, rape and pillage. But it still happens.
It still happens.
Yeah, I mean,
Every
you can think of Iraq and Afghanistan.
Exactly.
Like, sure, I guess the Talibans were bad guys. But we can all agree on that. But it's not like every soldier in the Allied army covered themselves in glory and never did anything wrong. It's far from it. And these are the most organized armies we've ever had, with the highest standards that humans have ever had for
by
these
far.
Sort of things.
By far, the most ethical, the most moral, by far.
Yeah. So it seems very unrealistic, like Shannon said, that everyone is nice in the army. It's I don't believe it. But again, it is a book, so it's meant for entertainment, not just for being completely realistic.
Right
now.
But,
I mean, imagine if Whiskey Jack was like, go in and take the spoils of war. Like that would be a very different story.
That would be realistic, though. It's just something that probably many people don't want to face. One, because a lot of people read fantasy and read it for escapism. So they don't want to actually face the realities of our world. They want more idealized, a better version of the world, or at least some characters. But also, it's a lot hard for many people to think about the fact that people can be good and evil at the same time, and like really bad and also perfectly normal people at the same time, right? Like you could have all these characters be goofy and whatever, and still do the most atrocious things to people they don't know. Like that's just reality.
And the reason I even feel like I desire to have this conversation and talk about this, because like so often with fantasy I'm like, like whatever, we have our good guys, like we fall. But this series actually does try to approach things with more nuance morally and ethically. And I mean, you have characters who are very complex and go back and forth doing things good and evil. And, we're asked to question a lot about our morality at the same time, while I think that there is kind of an underlying moral sense to this series, an underlying moral code that it's espousing, excuse me. And so it feels, when I really grapple with it, slightly off that the army is whitewashed in the way it is. I don't think we ever seriously are invited to question the bridge burners' morality after Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah.
It's kind of done in passing, and they ultimately end up making the right decision. But it's still at least there. But here, and in all the prior books, what is the consequence of their conquest and imperialism?
Well, I was going to say the bridge burners. I always talk about how we see them at the end. The 14th Army here, we're seeing them kind of at the beginning and the middle. We'll have to pay attention and see, but so far they seem to be pretty much on track to be the exact same as the bridge burners. Funny and moral and good. And I was going to say, I think part of it might be because the Malazan forces are largely based on the Black Company by Glenn Cook, which I think Erikson's been very open about. And that's another thing. I think people talk about how bad they are, and I'm like, they're literally the bad guys, but I'm like, oh, they're not that bad.
Only in the first book where they do some bad stuff, and only at the beginning, and it's said, and most after, they say they do bad things, but we don't really see it.
I always hear people talk about how bad they are, but I'm like, they're not that bad. They're mercenaries, and yes, they're working for a bad person. And now you can say bad things about the lady, sure, but them themselves, they're. I think they're very comparable to the bridge burners.
I think at the beginning of the first book they do some looting and stuff, but only at the beginning. It's similar to this. But I think it's also hard for. I don't think people would like it if the characters were actually did bad things.
No.
Right? People would chafe against it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would like it, but
it would affect the commerciality of it in a big way. I think that there is room, though, in this series to not completely alienate the audience and still have some of the soldiers loot. Because there are some armies in the past historically that they have grappled with the morality of war. It's not like dealing with the morality of war is a completely alien concept to people. There's a lot of discourse around the Odyssey movie and did the ancient Greeks really grapple with whether or not sacking Troy was a problem? It's there absolutely were ancient Greeks that grappled with it, and the Romans after them actually villainized Odysseus. So it's a complicated question. There absolutely were armies that would hang you or cut off your cock if you raped someone. But it was meant to be organized, right? But there were still they were doing horrible shit. They were still burning farms so that their enemy couldn't have supplies, right?
Yeah,
it's not neat in the way that warfare maybe feels a little neat at times in this series.
Yeah, I also feel like there's a difference. In bad things, there's a clear thing of some bad things are acceptable, some bad things are not acceptable.
Yeah.
And a character can be bad, and he mostly does the acceptable bad things, and he doesn't do the unacceptable bad things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a difference between being roguish and charming and being biddiful. Those are two completely different type of characters.
Yeah. But I think we need to. I don't know. It's just hard for people to understand, to grapple with the fact that people that may seem nice may also do very unacceptable bad things.
I think it's important though, because it's hard to grapple with real morality if you cannot face what human beings are capable of, right? That it doesn't mean that they're all evil. There's a lot of that's why we have a justice. That's the whole question of what our justice system should be for and how it should function. I think these are really important questions to challenge people with. And I think ultimately what I was getting at is I feel like you could have the Malazans loot some or do like some controlled, basic, terrible army shit without, having them turn into the full blown, like the worst cases of medieval or ancient warfare.
I guess. Yeah, I just don't know if people would enjoy, like, if we saw scenes of Malazans just executing citizens or stealing things, or I don't know, kicking children, which definitely things that happened. If they would be able to go back to them joking and not have, I don't know, it would make it a lot more tougher to read the books.
Yeah.
It might make it more interesting, but
I think if you still have certain characters that you can latch onto, people would be able to endure it. Like I think of, I remember seeing some people commenting fairly recently on and towards the end of Game of Thrones that you see Northerners raping and pillaging King's Landing, and the Northerners have been like the good guys for a lot of the series, which is kind of flattening, because the Red Wedding of it all and that stuff is complicated. But I think that there is some I think people are capable. Maybe if it's like they're faceless soldiers in a way, right? It's not like Jon Snow was doing that.
Well, going with your Game of Thrones thing, I mean, specifically Grey Worm, I think you can point at him. He's somebody that was straight up a hero, and then now we see him doing war crimes, and it's like, whoa, point. Like, how do I handle this? And a lot of people, your average watchers, like they're like, oh, I can't handle this.
Yep.
Because
that's a great point.
I thought this guy was amazing, and now he's slaughtering innocent people.
Yeah, but you're right. Game of Thrones is, I think it's one of the series that gets closer to actually showing things as they might be and not shying away from good people doing bad things.
You could not pay me to live in the Riverlands. Like, it is constantly a bloodbath in the Riverlands.
But I feel it's an exception, Game of Thrones, compared to most other fantasy. It does feel darker to me. Personally, it does feel darker to me than Malazan.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because it's more realistic and it has those things going on. I don't know.
I actually agree with you, Dan. I think, because the dark is just so dark. Like, especially those first couple books. Not so much maybe book 4 and 5, but like within the book 2 and 3. I mean, just the stuff that happens in the Riverlands and around Harrenhal, and I mean, it's just so unrelentingly awful. Like, just the mountain going around and just massacring innocent people and torturing them, killing them. It's just
there was a
lot.
The chevauché. It was a French term. I mean, it basically is like it's a word to describe the strategy of just burn everything, burn the countryside, and you start out the enemy. Right? I mean, it was a real, like, that was the kind of mainstream medieval Western European strategy for hundreds of years. It's just awful. And they would have like laws about like, don't rape and pillage, blindly, but it still like would happen, and some armies were better ordered than others. So I'm going to come to Malazan's defense a little bit and say some of this stuff does happen. And the Malazan army does do, it's just not pushed as far as I think it maybe should be. Like they're lionized and whitewashed a little too much, I feel. Whereas like Erikson does approach it. Like again, in Gardens of the Moon, you are challenged with the bridge burners about like they're not the good guys until the very end of that book. We're following them as if they are, but they're not doing good things. They're actually trying to conquer a city that wants to be independent. And we even meet people in the city who are independent, and the bridge burners are planning to bomb the streets. I mean, it's
but they
crazy.
didn't do it though. I think that's the thing, that they actually didn't do it. So our mind doesn't really, they didn't do it, so it didn't happen. You know what I mean? It makes it much less than, even though they were planning doing as if, it should be the same.
Yes. Adjunct Lauren, though, again, book 1, we know is basically taken from her family and raised up, and she just drank the Malazan Kool-Aid. Yeah. And so what I'm saying, I guess, is it's there, but it's just kind of understated. Like, I feel like that's maybe the reason why A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones feels darker in terms of how it handles warfare at times, is because it shoves it in your face. And so a lot of people say it's gratuitous, right? That's one of the biggest comments you hear. Like I've been hearing a lot of like in the sexual violence of it all is like that's a thorny topic, right?
Yeah.
But the unfortunate reality is in wartime, all this stuff happens. We're seeing it again today, like as a strategy, the strategy to rape and pillage, to create terror so the enemy gives up. It's like the oldest strategy.
Well, and I think also one of the big things about Malazan is that in some ways there's an undercurrent of optimism in this series
Yeah.
that I think a lot of people don't give it credit for. Because, like, specifically talking about what we're talking about, I mean, I can, back in book 3, I mean, we saw that Whiskey Jack is like a true believer in, like, we make things better. And I mean, he's very optimistic about, how, what and how the Malazan Empire brings good things, trade and all this stuff to nations, which, and it's funny because he's over in Genovacus, which I see is completely different than Seven Cities. I mean, Seven Cities is pretty terrible. Genovacus seems to be pretty functional and fine on its own. Like, they don't really need a foreign army coming in and, offering up trade and, a new governance. But here he is talking about how great they are. Because he sees the best in them.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, largely it is quite optimistic, I feel, just because of the Malazans. Yeah, they're quite, I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't feel as dark and as,
I don't know.
realistic.
I
as some
really
of
wish we had Steve here because he actively
I was going to
posted
say
about this on the forum, and
yes,
I guess life.
I was just looking up that forum post. I was like, man, I wish Steve was here
because he was comparing it to Baker. He was saying which is darker, and I felt like easily Baker.
No comparison.
I mean, you're talking about just like shoving the atrocities in your face constantly. But it goes beyond that too. I kind of commented on it. I don't want to get into the spoilers or even allude to the things I said on the forum, but that Malazan, there is that undercurrent of optimism. And a big part of it, I think, is the heroics of the Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, many other characters too are like nice people in bed.
Yeah. Mappo.
I think of a lot of other series which are more dark just because of the approach they take. Not even because of what happens, just because of the approach and the characters and the overall themes, I think, and choices that they make.
Absolutely. I agree.
I mean, I can't get into spoilers, but I mean, like I said, I just finished Sailing Sarantium. There's some stuff that happens in that book that is like atrocious.
Yeah.
Like there was some things that were really like, holy crap! Like, I can't believe that just happened. And I mean, it's it's dark. I mean, there's points of darkness in it, and it's that are almost worse than anything I've seen here.
To Malazan's credit, and in the darkness department, Midnight Tides gets really dark.
Yeah.
Like you're rooting in some way for the Teist, and we discussed this when we were talking about it, but the Teist editor, like, you're like, oh yeah, like, fight off the colonizers, like, screw them, and then like they do that, and then they're committing like just as bad crimes, right? Like they are raping and pillaging. Like, we actively see that happen. It's horrible. And so I think, I mean, that book maybe of all of the books actually is the most honest about what this kind of warfare looks like.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Like, it doesn't mean that because it's more dark, it's better. Like,
No,
you can do whatever you want as long as, I don't know. It's hard to say. I just feel like it just needs to work. That's not a good description, but it just needs to work. And I think maybe just some writers don't, not here, but some other books, they don't realize what they're writing, and they don't understand what sort of tone, what their tone implies, I guess. And then you get some, and it just doesn't make sense. It feels like your brain is like, oh, this doesn't make much sense. It feels like it should be a different way.
Yeah. Well, speaking of optimism, I did want to. We haven't talked about it yet about Mappo being saved.
He's alive.
Megara saves him by
kissing on him.
Did she pull the moon like out of orbit with her magic? Like that was weird.
I
She
thought
pissed
she
on
just
him,
like
right?
made it disappear,
That's what I
like
thought.
just like clouded it,
Oh,
eclipsed
okay.
it.
I thought it was actually physically coming down a little bit.
I have no idea.
Which
Yeah.
is the moon whole at this point? I thought it wasn't. I thought in the last book we saw, or earlier in this book.
No, I think it's whole.
Wait, why would it not be whole?
Don't worry about it. I could have sworn it was earlier in this book, but I'll look it up later.
He's going to be keeping his eye out for the moon now.
Keep your eye on the moon. Keep your eye on the moon.
I guess maybe it's not full moon, so it's missing parts of it.
So true. That is what happens is when you get a crescent moon, it's because parts of the moon are like have run away.
I
They're just
thought
not
because
there anymore.
a big rat ate the cheese. No? That's what I thought.
I've heard that before,
No.
but only savages believe that. So
Okay.
I'm hate to break
Shit.
it to you. It actually just breaks up. The moon is sentient, is made up of a bunch of different life forms that all kind of glom together and at times break off into different pieces. Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Earlier in this book, Kalam-Makar observed that the moon in the night sky looked misshapen and rougher around the edges as if the surrounding darkness was gnawing at it. So there's something weird going on with the moon. There we go.
I see.
Interesting.
And it's
missed
just
that
yeah.
completely.
It's not because he just doesn't know about the phases of the moon.
No, it does
Okay.
not be. It's just no. There's
Man,
definitely something going on with the moon, but we don't know what yet.
Any
Kalam was the
thoughts
first person to notice
before we kind of close out about the Hyboric of it all? His hands are being weird.
I
and he's
think okay. I
acting
have
weird.
one complaint to Hyboric,
Uh-oh.
which is like, why do you have to talk as if people understand what you're like? He could easily just be like, okay, let me explain what's going on. Why do you have to speak in ways that make no sense? Like he knows it doesn't make any sense. So at that point, don't talk. It's like, why are you talking? It's a waste of like, what are you doing?
You don't think he's kind of crazy at this point? I think he's kind of crazy at this point.
I don't know if he's crazy. He seems
I
like,
don't know.
oh, I know all these things I'm saying. I know what they mean, but I'm not going to say it because I'm so cryptic and I'm so special or something. Because we do see his internal monologue a little bit, and I don't know. Didn't seem like a lunatic.
I feel like he's going kind of crazy.
It makes like the things he says make sense with what we know about like all the giants and all those weird things happening. But the other people obviously don't know anything about it. And it's like you could just tell them.
Maybe he doesn't fully understand it. He's just describing what he's seeing and feeling and having visions or something. But
he's also not saying. He could be like, "Oh, I'm seeing these things. I don't understand them, but I see these things." No, he's saying them in the in the cryptic way that they do these people in books that are just like, "Oh, say something to." Because it's smart, and people around them like, oh, I don't know what you're saying. I'm like, you can just explain it. It's not. I don't know.
I love that stuff. Look, as a trope, I eat that stuff up. That said,
I think I'm defending the trope right now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's definitely it's the trope. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's the trope.
Yeah.
I do think he's going kind of crazy though.
Okay.
He is from the beginning of this book. I mean, first of all, think of all the shit he's gone through. But from the beginning of this book, his hands have been acting weird.
Yeah.
Recently got chosen without his choice to be another god's slave, basically, / champion. And he's acting kind of weird and erratic.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. When we're in his head, he doesn't seem like he's completely losing it.
But do crazy people know they're losing it?
Right. I like you could write him like some modernist stream of consciousness to kind of emphasize where his headspace is at. Like I feel like that would be a reasonable choice, but I don't think Erikson wants to do that because I guess what I'm getting at is when we see him from the other characters' perspectives, he's acting weird. He's not acting like he was before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I mean, I'll just say it here. I don't like Hyboric. I never really have. I mean, I think he failed with Fellis and Younger.
Heresy.
Yeah, I just don't like the guy.
I just don't like him. I just don't. I'm sorry. I know he's the importer. No, wait, he wasn't the historian. That was the other guy. Yeah, no, he's
No,
just
he's a historian, right?
just never cared. No, that was
He's a
Oh, no,
historian. Yes, he is.
I thought he was.
Was he
at some point.
historian?
Yeah,
Okay.
Duiker.
Well, he
right?
wasn't the imperial horse historian.
No.
That was the other guy.
Duiker was the imperial historian, but Duiker
Duiker.
raised up Haboric, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Or they had met.
Well,
and I don't know. Maybe Shadowthorn
I just
also
don't.
raised
I
up
don't know.
Haboric.
Haboric just seemed he did such a shitty job in the last book that like I just still like I don't care that he's going crazy now. I don't care. Like, shut up.
I'm interested in the jade statues and the hands and stuff like that. But the character, it's just
That's
annoying to
interesting.
me because of what I said. It's like if I was there, I would be so annoyed with him. I would be like,
I look,
just tell me.
Haboric, Crocus, Cutter, Thelison, Scalara. I don't really like any of them that much. I mean, this is like the worst part of this book for me is when we go to these guys. Grey Frog. I'm only there for Grey Frog to see what he has eaten this week.
I like Solara.
I like all of them.
I don't care for it. I mean,
they're so dysfunctional and unpleasant, all of them in different ways, that I just love. They're all so broken. I don't know. I'm a sucker for just really messed up people finding other messed up people and being like kind of an impromptu family. Like to me, the way they're functioning is like almost the way I wish Felison, the Elder, Bowden, and Haboric functioned. Because as toxic as this group is, they're actually sticking together and they're functioning, right? They're not like actively about to kill each other. And so I find that it feels like growth to me in a way, I guess. Like over the course of the series, like this is an improvement over where Haboric's last group of, crappy family. But at the same time, he's now acting crazy. So
yeah,
maybe not.
I just wish he talked in a less cryptic way. That's the only thing. I think it's gratuitous. I think he's doing it on purpose. I think.
Maybe you're right. Maybe he just
I think Haboric's an asshole. I agree. I think he's doing it on purpose.
He just wants to act like the weirdo wizard. He just wants everyone to respect his authority and respect his cryptic power. And, I can vibe with that.
I mean, I can say that even in real life, people that think too highly of themselves tend to try to do that sort of shit. So
it is unfortunately definitely a real, it doesn't play out like the trope, but people will act so pretentious. Some people, when they get their head up their ass and be very cryptic about things unnecessarily, talk around things, really is what they're doing. Say
things like, oh, who knows? Acting like they know everything. They just don't want to tell you, right?
It's the worst.
I know. I hate them.
So, Dan, I did want to ask. So we left off with Paran, like I said, crossing that bridge, going into the Shadow Realm, and he starts hearing all the howling and wailing. What, you have any theories? What's Paran about to run into?
I mean, I don't know. There's been a couple of references this book about the hounds of not shadow, the hounds of darkness, right?
Yes, Daragoth. The Daragoth.
Yeah, and the hounds of shadow. Like, I think they've been mentioned enough this book that it's like we're gonna see them.
Okay,
because it makes sense.
Well, he believes they tore up the carriage, so that's
And then Quick Ben is also saying like something like, "Oh, we need to get them to." Was it Quick Ben? Someone said we need to get them to kill the troll Barahal thing.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I wanted.
Very good, Dan.
Actually,
you remembered.
Okay.
I'd forgotten. I did actually want to talk about the Tri-Guild Trade Guild a little bit since they popped up here at the end of the book. So we learned more about them. And apparently you get paid extra money if you die, or your family does. They're just, I don't know. I'm continuing to dig these people. Like, I don't know how, unimaginably powerful this wizard must be to be able to like break into some ancient warren or area that even like Hood doesn't go to.
Yeah.
But also, man, they make it work.
How much money must they be paying for you to be willing? Because it seems every time they do something, like 10% of them die or something.
Got to be.
So there must be astronomical amounts of money. Like, how are they getting paid this much money to make this worth?
Well,
it is such a silly concept that I can't help but love it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it almost
I
feels
think-
like a parody of, I don't know. I don't even know what. Some sort of like market company.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's so goofy.
Yeah. And it works so well. Like it's so goofy. Back when they were introduced, I don't know, what was it, book 3? Book 2. Book 3
Two.
or book 4? No, book 2. It was book 2.
Two.
Yeah, because
Yep.
it's just, they're so goofy. And they seem like they shouldn't work because they're just kind of too powerful, really, if you think about it. But they just do. As far as how much are the people getting paid, I think maybe from what I got from this was if you die, you get a whole lot of money. Maybe the people that are actually there, it's maybe it's kind of a semi desperation thing, like, no jobs around, I'm going to take a job. But I would imagine they pay more than your average
The thing
caravan.
that makes it so goofy to me is I just cannot imagine this being a remotely reasonable economic enterprise. Like this just, there's no way, like, because they can charge whatever they want, basically. Like, and they must be paid absurd amounts of money. And I just can't imagine any amount of money is worth the sort of stuff that they do. Like, it just has to go wrong. Like, the sort of investments, it's just crazy. I love it. It's like a cartoon randomly. Like, we have this cartoon business, and I just think it's really funny. Like, I like that Malazan doesn't take itself so seriously, that, we have like bits like this and characters like Iskara Pust. Like, I enjoy stuff like that. It's part of the charm of the series for me.
Yeah. I think I also really like it. But one thing is, like, I can't believe there's enough people that would pay that amount of money on a continuous basis to make it a profitable.
No, exactly. Exactly. Like, I cannot imagine that there are all these.
Well, maybe they get paid so much they only got to work every now and then.
Then the economics somehow don't work at some point.
No, you're right. I think you're both right. The economics don't really make sense. I mean, because here we learn there's more than one caravan or more carriage.
Yeah.
And I think it was Turban Orr's family member was in the one that went bad.
Yeah.
So we do know that they lose whole carriages, I guess. Like, I don't know.
But
I can't wait.
Because it implies.
Which then you wouldn't get paid any money.
Yeah, it just implies that there's a lot of other shenanigans and weird, powerful people sending things around, and like all these adventures that are also happening, but we don't get to see because that's what it implies, right? Because the only way that it would work and be a reasonable like institution.
Yeah.
Right.
I just can't wait for the inevitable Malazan sequel set 300 years from now, when this turns into the British East India Company, and they're like the most corrupt corporation in the world, conquering, taking over the Malazan Empire.
South Genabacus Trading Company.
There you go.
And that's going to be.
But I can't imagine there's not like is there not like a Malazan book, side book that's like an adventure of a trade guild? There must be.
Not as far as I know.
It seems like such an obvious thing to do, in my mind. Kind of like...
First of all, Dan, I wouldn't tell you if I knew, but also, no, there's not.
No, you could tell me, because it could be like, the book. Let's have the premise of the book, right?
Yeah, no, I know. No, there's not one that has a premise.
Yeah. It just seems similar to like the Necromancers, and they have their own book. It's a similar sort of setup, right?
That would be a good novella. I'm with you, Erikson.
It would, actually. I'm on board with this.
Gotta
like a sister novella to Bachlan and Corporal Brooch.
Yeah, I think that would make sense, right? Because it's like those silly elements that are almost out of place, but not really. That imply
you could go real full on comedy with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we're gonna do it at some point.
I think you should email Erikson. Let him know.
Yeah, pay 10% for the idea.
I'm actually writing this down because I do want to ask, if we ever get Erikson back on, I want to ask him about this. Has he ever thought about writing this, or Esselman?
Yeah,
I think it's more of an Erikson thing.
It is. I don't think I can't think of seeing them in their Esselman book.
It feels like Erikson, like it's his sense of humor. I actually would love to read a story about them because they are so weird and goofy, and they like just barely work within the context of the wider universe.
And you could do a story that's completely unconnected to the main story just because of how it's structured, right? It could be anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just a weird little side adventure. All right. Well, do we have any last nuggets to chew on before we go on our way? Any quotes or anything at all?
Let me check quick real fast.
Well, this was a good discussion. We talked about some stuff I didn't expect us to get into. Dan, I'm glad you could join us again. It was good to hear some thoughts about you.
Yeah, welcome back, Dan.
It's been a while.
Hopefully we get Steve back because we've been missing Steve. And
really?
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for listening. I do have to ask Shannon now what chapters we're reading this week.
Next week is going to be chapters 11 and 12.
11 and 12.
I think for the next several weeks, I think it's just 2 chapters a week.
Okay, perfect. So 11 and 12 this next week. We will see you then. Hopefully we'll have a